First thing to do, analyze the problem. Read it carefully and look for some phrase that might say something like is a function of. So it says here dollars per month is a function of number of kilometers per month. Now once you see something like that, you try to decide either based on the wording is a function of, or based upon your reasoning, which of these two depends on the other. Does the number of dollars depend on the number of kilometers, or does the number of kilometers depend on the dollars? In this case, probably you should decide that it is going to be the kilometers, which are the independent variable, dollars dependent. So your first data point is going to be 300 kilometers costs $366 per month to run the car. And the second data point here, 1,500 kilometers costs $510 to run the car each month. After you've decided the data points, calculate the slope. So in this case, that's going to be 510 minus 366 divided by 1,500 minus 300. Right here, a common error is to get the x's and the y's in the wrong position in the calculation. We avoided that this time. Look at the calculator on the right hand side of the screen. Start with a parenthesis in doing this calculation. 510 minus 366, end the numerator parentheses, divided by new parentheses 1,500 minus 300, end parentheses, enter. And we see that the slope has a value of 0.12. Now once you have that slope, you can use this form of line equation. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. This style of line equation is called point slope because it requires a knowledge of a point that I've underlined in blue, and it requires a knowledge of the slope I've just underlined in orange. So here we go. We're going to go back to doing the problem. Let's choose this second point right here, 1,500 comma 510, to use in the equation. So in doing that, the y coordinate is 510. The slope we've just calculated, 0.12, and from our data point, x minus the x coordinate is 1,500. Take your time doing the arithmetic. You're going to need to distribute the 0.12 to the x and also to the negative 1,500. So looking over at the calculator, we're going to need to multiply 0.12 times 1,500. In fact, that is negative 1,500. Enter. And so the right hand side of this calculation ends up being 0.12x from the first term distributed minus 180. Continuing, we're going to move the 510, negative 510, to the other side of the equation. And so we're going to need to take negative 180 and add to that 510. So we've got now on the right hand side of the equation plus 330. This, I'm going to put it in some special color box, perhaps this light blue box. This is called the particular equation. we've used the data and this general form of equation right here, the point-slope form, to create the particular equation which we can use to do the rest of the problem. Part B says sketch a graph of this function. So let's make a coordinate system. And I'm just going to make a little tiny coordinate system. Doesn't really matter how big you make it, just as long as you get the main ideas across. And in that coordinate system, we're going to need to place a y-intercept right there, 330, because this equation is of the form y equals mx plus b, and the y-intercept is 330. 330. Now, we're also going to need to, based on the other part, the other constant in the equation, 0.12, go over and up a certain amount, go up 0.12, which stands for $0.12, for every 1 more kilometer. And so basically that's telling us that this is taking an extra 12 cents per kilometer to run the vehicle. And that's what the line would look like. Okay, let's finish up the further problems. Part C, right here, part C, in black on the right hand side of the screen. And so what it asks is predict your monthly cost if you drive 500, then 1,000, then 2,000 kilometers in a month. So use the equation we've just found, y equals 0.12. First calculation is going to be 500 kilometers plus 330. And second time around, we're going to do a calculation. It's going to be 0.12 times 1,000 kilometers plus 330. Third time calculation, 0.12 times 2,000 kilometers plus 330. And it's going to be a little bit of calculation, but just jump over to the calculator, start typing. 0.12, did not register, 0.12 times 500, comma, plus 330, enter. And that's going to be a cost of $390 per month for 500 kilometers. And I know you can finish the calculation on the second and third. Let's not worry about that. Moving on to part D. Part D says how far could you drive if the monthly cost is 600. So this time we're not taking the equation in the blue box and substituting x. For part D, we know the number of dollars. So that'll be 600 equals 0.12x plus 330. Subtract 330 from each side yields 270 equals 0.12x. Final step, 270 divided by 0.12. That'll tell us our value for x. So go to the calculator, 270 divided by 0.12, enter. And this tells us that we would need to drive a total of 2,250 kilometers in order for the monthly cost to be $600.